so very much. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the call. I'm Bobby Spiegel. I'm the president and CEO for the Corona Chamber. I want to welcome you to the call today, and I'm very excited to be able to introduce our chair for our advocacy outreach. I want to clarify that we have different chairs for our different organizations, and our chair of the board is on the call. That is Paul Bender-Medisha, who will have an opportunity to say a couple of words in a little bit. But our chair of our event today, and this is a weekly call that we have, is our Corona Chamber Business Briefing, is the Honorable Jeff Miller. Jeff is a retired state assembly member. He was elected by the constituents down in this area here of the greater Corona area, and he served proudly and was able to do a lot of great things for the business community. What I like about Jeff, and not just his experience in the statewide level, but working with all different types of individuals with different thoughts and processes, he's able to share and dissect things down to where it's a common sense decision. Jeff also served as the elected city council member in Corona, as well as mayor of the city of Corona. And most importantly, in my eyes, he is a business owner. Has run a very successful insurance brokerage firm called Miller Insurance, and it is through farmers, and he does a tremendous job with that. But he is volunteering his time and efforts, as he does every single week with us, and a lot of behind the scenes, not just on this short 35-minute talk today, but throughout the week. He spends a lot of time working with our consultant to see which bills we need to bring up and share and dive right into things. So without me taking too much more time, please welcome, and the crowd goes nuts to welcome, our chair, Jeff Miller.
Thank you, Bobby. You always make me blush. Oh, well. Good morning, everybody. Here we go again. Hope everybody's having a wonderful summer and staying safe and making a lot of money and enjoying life. So with that, I would like to thank you for allowing me to be your chair of the Legislative Action Committee. It's an honor. And before we get into our presentation, I was going to ask our chair, Paul Bender, chair of the board, to say a few words.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Jeff. So now that I know you're going to do this to me, I'm starting to kind of think about it like 2 minutes before the call. And so I don't know if any of you saw US Today article on Sunday. It was on the wealth gap, and it talked about assets and wealth in the US. And so this wasn't a surprise to somebody like me, but business assets don't account for an especially large share of overall wealth. So that's really interesting, as you know, and a lot of us have been there, still there sometimes. But so what happens is that small businesses or small business owners end up draining their personal wealth in order to keep their businesses afloat. And so what the USA Today study found was that business equity or asset only accounted for about $6,000 in net worth per household in the US. So, and then small businesses right now are facing a gamut of challenges, including a steady need for financing that also drains their personal wealth. And although 68% of new businesses survive the first 2 years, only 49% survive 5 years. And this is from a Small Business Administration study that tracked businesses over a 25-year period. So those are kind of, we know those numbers, but when you read them again, they're kind of shocking, because you're like, oh my God, that means 51% of all business owners go out of business and they lose so much of their personal wealth, 401k, savings, sometimes their house or housing. And so for me, that was just a reminder of how much all of us that own businesses or involved in businesses put on the line, but how much support we need. And that first 5 years is really critical. So it goes back to my normal thing, which is be involved in the chamber, join the chamber, take advantage of the training that we offer, not only by ourselves, but in partnership with the City Council, with the Small Business Administration, with other independent consultants out there, because I think that can make all the difference to staying in business and continuing to support our families. But just hats off to everybody that does that, because right now, obviously, everybody's worried about inflation, rising wages, all kinds of issues. And we are here for you as a chamber because we know what it's like to be in your shoes. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Paul Bender. Thank you for all your hard work outside of your job in your business, taking care of our chamber stuff. So thank you very much. Today's meeting is sponsored by Kaiser Permanente. Kaiser Permanente has been providing high quality healthcare for more than 75 years. When everything about your healthcare, including your health plan, is connected, everyone is equally invested in your total health. As Kaiser says, when our members thrive, everybody wins. Thank you, Kaiser Permanente, for sponsoring the meeting. There's a little chat button on the bottom. Feel free to send any messages in, questions to the chamber host, and we'll get those answered for you. With that, I'd like to introduce Anthony Maldonado to give a few chamber updates.
Thank you so much, Jeff, and thank you everyone for joining us this week. I just want to cover just 3 things that are coming up. First and foremost is the Mega Mixer on August 18th. That is next Thursday. It is going to be held at the Mount San Jacinto Temecula campus. It's going to be a huge networking opportunity. We do this in collaboration with many of the local chambers in the area. Admission is just 1 business card or $1. We might still have a few exhibitor spaces left. So if you would like one, please contact us here at the chamber and we can get you sorted with that. The following day, August 19th, is Good Morning Corona. This is a very special Good Morning Corona. It's going to be honoring our police and fire departments. We are really lucky to have such great departments here in our community. They really care for us. So we thought, what better way to honor them at Good Morning Corona. As always, check-in kicks off at 6:30 at Eagle Glen Golf Club. And we do have a few sponsorships and exhibitor tables left. So please check out the link that I will be posting in the chat to learn more. The following week, August 25th, is the Women's Leadership Conference. We have over 550 attendees registered. So if you've not gotten your ticket, please do so. We have some really great and inspiring guest speakers lined up. It's going to be an awesome day, and we are very excited for this year. Just 15 days away. We do have exhibitor spaces left, so please contact us here at the chamber to learn more or visit the website. With that, as I mentioned, I will be posting all the links in the chat. So back to you, Jeff.
Great. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate that. So I just want to acknowledge a few folks before we get into the meat of the matter. Thank you, Peppermint Ridge, one of our premier nonprofit organizations in town, for jumping on the call. I'm assuming you're still hiring. I see a head shake by Jim, and feel free to, if you're hiring, put your contact in there. Maybe we can get you some new employees. Thank you for jumping on the call. Our consultant is Jeff Gibson with Occidental Communications Group. Jeff, for 35 years, has specialized in areas of political consulting, government affairs, and government relations. He has specialized in areas of in housing and transportation and environmental, and was the author of Jessica's Law back in 2006. And Jeff is here to give us a quick update on what's going on in Sacramento and what's going on nationally. Very interesting developments going on. So with that, where's Jeff? There he is. Hey, Jeff Gibson.
Hey everybody, hope you're having a great day with the 8.5% inflation that's out there. So just remember that last year at this time we were predicting a 2.1% inflation rate. This time last month we were predicting a 6% inflation rate. So unexpected things can happen, and when they do happen, we need to be working in groups like this to protect ourselves. So with that, as we talked about last week, that there were votes likely for, there were enough votes in the U.S. Senate to pass the improperly named Inflation Reduction Act, as we talked about last week. And as was proven this week with the stats on inflation, we decided to drill down a little bit further into the bill and give you an impression of real world impacts that will be happening in our community. And on this first slide, which you can see are that the top line, number one, ongoing cost for the rest of time is that there will be 87,000 jobs added to the auditing department at the IRS. And so we took a deep dive into a number of different news sources to see precisely where audits are happening in the United States. And lo and behold, ProPublica, which is a company that was founded by former Washington Post editors, it's funded by George Soros, but it does long form reporting on long-term economic trends, did a county by county analysis based on IRS data running through the end of 2019. So it is a little older, but these are long-term trends. And what you can see here as you look at it are the darker the county, the more audits have been happening over a 10 to 15 year period. In California, if you live in Imperial County, which by the way is also the poorest county in California, you are 10 times more likely to receive an audit than if you live in Riverside County. Orange County, you actually have you had a lower chance. As you can see, a large portion of the country has an extremely low chance of being audited. In fact, if you look at New England, there's only about 6 counties that even qualify for the chart out of a 10-state area, going almost all the way down to the mid-Atlantic states. But if you look at the Mississippi Delta, which is well over 65 to 70% minority residents, you're looking at 13 out of every 1,000 filers in counties where you're earning well less than the national average. If you look at the south part of Texas, right along the Mexican border, the border with Mexico, where you have, again, very high, a very low household income. And in fact, as we know in the United States, if you make less than $50,000 a year, on average, you pay no net federal taxes. And so you're going into these counties that have substantially less than $50,000 per household in income and finding that they have 13, 15 times the audit likelihood as if you were in Beverly Hills. So it's very distressing to understand that this bill is hiring more IRS auditors than there were troops in Afghanistan for all but 6 months. So if you add up if you look at all the troop levels from September 11th, 2001 until August of last year, we never had 87,000 troops in Afghanistan except for during the surge at the beginning of the Obama administration. So that is a lot of people. And unfortunately, it would appear if the pattern holds, they're going to be going after people at the lower portions of the economic rungs, which make it difficult to see how we're going to be getting $720 billion a year in new revenue out of efforts that do that. So independent of the impact that it can have on these communities as well. So very sad, but we are going to be advocating on this when we go back to Washington, DC. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Jeff. There are no questions in the chat, so you can continue.
All right, going on to Sacramento. Fun stuff. So if you remember, we were very active, one of the most active business groups in delaying AB 2840, which technically is still stalled in committee. But there is on Friday, a coalition of 10 environmental groups asked the governor to consider. They didn't ask, they demanded the legislature and the governor pass setbacks, which, if you remember, in AB 2840, our complaint was the setbacks were 1,000 feet for any for any building that had any portion of it dedicated, any building over 100,000 square feet within Riverside or San Bernardino counties that had any portion of it dedicated for warehouse. It hit several different locations within Corona, but it also shut down any development of the supply chain for smart manufacturing within the city of Corona, which is why we took our position. Now, the same groups that were behind 2840 have now come to the legislature and said, we want, in the last 2.5 weeks of the 2-year legislative session, to enact a ban on any heavy industry or oil production within 3,200 feet, so almost 3/4 of a mile, from nearly every urban location. So if it's a location where children gather, if it's a school location, for instance, LAUSD, Beverly Hills High School, several different high schools in and around Southern California receive a significant amount of their income from legacy oil drilling that is slant drilled. The students don't even understand that 800 to 1,000 feet down from their playgrounds, for instance, there is oil being taken out of the ground, and it's never caused a problem. Well, though, all of that activity would be effectively banned, which obviously hits school funding, and that's just one example. And as we has discussed previously, Russia previously has been one of the major locations in which we as a state have been receiving oil. And as a result of the Russia embargo, one of the things that we are now approved is we are now one of the largest spot buyers as a state, and using our tax dollars to fund this of coal-fired energy from outside the state of California. So obviously shutting down the oil and gas industry in the state of California is a huge blow to well over 200,000 jobs. Almost all of them career building, 6 figures. I mean, you do very, very well. It's hard work, but then also anything that would be considered heavy industry would also fall within the 3,200 foot setback. And unfortunately, as Jeff can attest, as Mr. Miller can attest to, when bills are introduced during the last 3 weeks of session, they get committee hearings on the floor. And a committee hearing on the floor is a group of people that previously had served on committees decide to step over to the side and have a hearing. Now, the public is allowed generally to watch those hearings from either TV or watch them from the gallery. They are not allowed to comment. They cannot hear any of the comments. And that suffices as a public consideration of the bill, because most of August's activity does not involve committee hearings. It actually just involves voting, because you're considering hundreds of measures that still need to be enacted, along with thousands of amendments. So this is something that is extremely concerning to us. It is entirely inappropriate for the legislature to be considering such a large policy change that will literally affect every single person. We are paying well over $1 more per gallon of gas, and to be buying our petroleum from some of the dirtiest countries in the world, because we decided not to, we actually decided to take our very clean energy production here in California and take it offline is very distressing. So we're going to be coming back to you next week with an update on this, because this is a very serious issue that the governor has acknowledged and is starting to work on. So happy to take any questions that you may have.
Anthony?
There are no questions that came in.
Wow, we are flying
Jeff?
today.
Jeff, so if I can just put a highlight on something. So of the whole year, we are now entering into a time in the legislature where the biggest damage can be done. And as Jeff indicated, if there's a movement like this that gets the majority motivated to push through, they can pretty much do whatever they want. There were many times I was sitting on the floor and I'd have 200 pages just dropped on my desk and say, we got to vote on this. No hearings, no discussion. They take the language out of another bill. So in this case, they may have another environmental bill that, say, bans asbestos near water or something environmental related. And they take all the language out of that bill and they just insert what they want into the bill and they put it on the floor for a vote. And there's no public comment, there's no discussion. And if they have the votes, they can pass it. And if the governor's given indications that he or she is willing to sign it, it may or may not have bipartisan support. So usually they don't. So this is something that we're going to be watching really closely over the next few weeks. If this is the worst that we get, I'll be okay with it, believe it or not. But generally, there may be a handful of things that are going to be proposed that we may have to mobilize and do our thing again and start contacting legislators and letting them know how we feel about these things. So, all right, I'll stop rambling and let Jeff continue.
So, and to put a fine point on it, of where we are as a state, when we were up in Sacramento in May, we were looking at a surplus of about $117 billion and there were a lot of high fives going around, if everybody remembers, amongst the governor and staff and all of those great things, because we were running so high. But 75% of the collection of tax revenue in the state of California is income tax, and about 60% of that is derived from the stock market. Now, the stock market between August 12th, 1982, when the bull market started, through yesterday, well, actually through January 23rd or thereabouts, gained year over year, gained 9.67% for 40 years on average. It is the longest run in investment history at that level. And it has now, and while there were some dips and there were a couple of crashes, year over year, for those 40 years, it never dropped net below 15%. Well, we're currently 25% down. And so we're looking at a substantial, and we're very much into a bear market. And as proof of the effect that can have on the state of California, extremely quickly, in May, we were at 117 billion in surplus. Looking forward, couldn't have been happier. The legislature put 23 billion into all sorts of different projects. Green energy, we committed 17 billion to buy coal-based energy, all sorts of different things. Well, in June, which was not that long ago, I know as a public school graduate, sometimes I forget the date and the time, and I do get confused by the rotation of the moon around the Earth. I think it's that way, but it was not that long ago. It was $97 billion. So I believe 117 in May is better than 97 in June. And then in July, it dropped again, but this time it didn't drop by 20 billion. It dropped by 26 billion. So I believe dropping by 26 billion is more than dropping by 20 billion. So in 2 months, we went from 117 billion, which was more money than was spent in Jerry Brown's second to last budget overall, to now we're at 71 billion based upon current estimates. Now, in the most rosy estimate for next year, and this was the July 1 estimate, we were looking at about 11 to 14 billion dollars in surplus. So the State Department of Finance has not refigured the figures of where the state is. It has not figured in the $46 billion loss in revenue in just 2 months. But if you keep looking at that 2023 estimate and it isn't moving at all, that's kind of like the estimate 6 months ago that we would be back to 2.1% inflation, and turned in 8.4%, 8.5% this year or this month, along with manufacturing job, a loss of 75,000 manufacturing jobs net. So things are happening. It's good to be in community, and we're very happy to discuss anything that you may have. But as you can see, just juxtaposing these two issues together, looking at throwing about 85 to 120,000 people out of work in the oil, gas, and manufacturing industries, all of which pay wages well above the $58,000 household average in the state of California. And then on the right-hand side, income tax collection is dropping like a rock, because the upper end and the lower end, the upper end is not selling their stock for as much income, and the lower end of the economy is finding it more difficult to find work. So in any case, happy to discuss anything you wanted to discuss. Otherwise, we can move on.
Anthony, anything?
Nothing has came in. So thank you so much, Jeff.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
You want to cover the Sacramento, the DC trip, Jeff?
Sure. September 19th through the 22nd, we have Congressman Calvert has signed on for lunch on the 21st. We have a visit to the U.S. Chamber and a briefing by several of their experts on a number of different issues on the 20th. On the 19th, we will be having a tour with Admiral Verhaeghe and going through his job with the Navy, which is always a very informative time. We have experts lined up in taxation and other policy issues. We're working with a number of different congressional offices for visits with their key staff and the members themselves. And so, and we will be staying at the historic Mayflower Hotel, which is just across Lafayette Square from the White House. So we're very, 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 very pleased with the way that worked out. So, but happy to answer any questions that you have. That's one of the reasons we are including a slide every week for the DC trip, so that you can get a flavor of what we're going to be discussing when we're there.
Okay, great. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
We'll keep everybody updated as we approach the end of session here in Sacramento. And if we have any action items outside of this regular Wednesday meeting, we will definitely be talking to you for your help. With that, I'd like to ask Linda, our friend Linda Pearson, if what's going on at Corona Regional Medical Center. And we lost Dr. Gramling. I wanted to get a quick update on Cal Baptist University. But anyways, Linda, do you have anything for us?
I think good news, our COVID patients are reducing daily. So we're down to just 8 and none in ICU, and we haven't lost anybody. It's all good news. So we're very happy about that.
That's great. And I read last night that the County of Riverside declared a health emergency due to monkeypox. Is that something that you're dealing with? at the
Yes, we
hospital?
are dealing with it, not huge amounts, but we have had it here, and but nothing drastic. It's all under control.
Good. All right. Thank you, Linda. Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
With that, if you want to contact our legislators, our assembly member and our state senator, there's our contact information. That's the information we use if we need to reach out and let them know how we feel or our positions on particular bills. And if you want to reach out directly to them, you can use that information right there. With that, I just want to thank again our sponsor, Kaiser Permanente. You can learn more at kaiserpermanente.org. And thank you very much for sponsoring Kaiser. With that, I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. And we will see you next week, August 17th, for the next business briefing. Thank you and be safe out there.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everyone.